Yep. So let's start. So yeah, this event is how to find your first software engineering internship, which is hosted by me and powered by Leland. So thank you all for joining. And yeah, let's get into it. So a little bit about me. I currently am a software engineer at AWS, more specifically in the AWS billing region. Before that, I was also a software engineer in Amazon. And a software engineering intern in Amazon, software engineering intern at Meta, and a software engineering intern at Lockheed Martin. And for schooling, I did my bachelor's in computer science at Virginia Tech, and I'm currently a deferred MBA student at Wharton, which is in the University of Pennsylvania. So, a lot other than all of these academic and work related things, a big thing that I'm interested in is sports, more specifically football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. And my favorite team is FC Barcelona. And the fun fact was, I was in person for the FIFA World Cup 2022 final, which was in Qatar. So, yeah, that was one of the best experiences I've been through. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And let's get into the main thing that y'all are here for, which is how to find a software engineering internship. So, this is kind of a little bit of an internship roadmap that I created, which I think is kind of it. I mean, it is very simplified, so don't take this as obviously the main source of truth, but I've kind of just given a rough roadmap of how things should look. So, first, obviously, you'd want to start off by doing impactful things in college and figuring out things that you like to do. Then obviously you after doing those impactful things, you would kind of get into creating a strong resume which is built on the things that you've done in the past. After that, once you've solidified your resume and you've done whatever you need to do in college through extracurriculars or classes or any of those things, you start to make connections in the industry. I think this is a really important aspect, especially today when the number of applications are massively like massively exceeding the number of open roles inside the industry. Then after you kind of make connections in the industry, get to know people, and obviously you apply for jobs, hopefully some of them with referrals, you start preparing for the interview. The interview, obviously a lot of people know lead code, that's the main thing that people talk about, and there are other aspects of the interview that I'll also be talking about in that specific point. And then hopefully the last step would be to celebrate the offer, which I hope all of you do get an offer for an internship, and hope that is obviously the desired last step. So now what I'll do is kind of go into each step one by one and kind of give you a more detailed understanding of what I'm talking about. So let's get into the first one, doing impactful things. I think the main thing that I would tell you guys from what I've done in college and from what I've seen is enjoy what you do. Because a lot of people, come up to me and are like, okay, what what kind of projects would be the best to put on my resume? What kind of like programming languages should I learn? What kind of like you like people look for a specific roadmap, but there actually is none. There's no one size fits all solution for stuff you should be doing to get an internship, and it's kind of more like just do what you like. And I feel like that will kind of encourage you to do it better, because if you're developing something that you're really really interested in, you'll obviously look for more ways to make it better and kind of improve on that specific thing, and maybe like find ways on how it could be the best possible thing that you want it to be. So there are multiple ways to do impactful things, right? You could look at open source projects, university research, independent studies, teaching assistantship, all of those things, right? These are just a few examples, but I know like it's completely open to anything. Like you could build an app for college students to use in your specific college, which addresses a problem that's currently there in your university, all of those things. And creating a project you aren't going to use just to show proficiency in certain programming languages is not a good idea. Because the thing with big tech is they realize that programming languages keep changing. Like one day it'll be Python, one day it'll be Java. Like there's innovation always in the tech industry. So like big tech doesn't exactly, I mean, they do care about, okay, are you good in, like, maybe like if they're looking for, let's say, an AWS developer, they're going to obviously look for proficiency in AWS. But for these general internship and software engineering roles, like the new grad software engineering roles, they're not exactly looking for proficiency in a specific programming language. Rather, they're looking at how you could develop as a software engineer. Because if they see potential in you, I don't think they will care exactly about, oh, does this guy know Python, or does this guy know, let's say, AWS. No, I think they'll look at, okay, can this guy learn? Does this guy have a willingness to learn? And if those traits are in you, I don't think you should have a problem in getting an internship. So yeah, there are too many apps out there. So I wouldn't, one thing I would do is not recommend building a calculator app. But if you're interested in it, and if you find a good way to kind of make it innovative, sure, go for it. So I can give you an example of what I had done to while I was like just developing projects back in college. So one thing that I've done is I created an automatic Zoom login Python script. So basically what that did is it would just automatically log into my meetings for me, because I was in Indian Standard Time, and I was 6 months in India, and obviously all of my classes were online. And sometimes I'd not wake up on time, or I'd just go to sleep, and I would miss like I wouldn't be in the Zoom class for attendance, or like the professor would see me missing. So what I did is simply just have that automatic Zoom login up and running. And whenever like I needed to join a class, it would automatically be joined. So if I was getting food or something, I would just be in that class. I would just sit and I'd be in the meeting. Or if I went to sleep, the meeting would be automatically attended for me. So that was one thing that obviously I had put on my resume, and a lot of people did find that interesting. So that was fun, and I did use that. So yeah, that's just a good example of how you can do things that actually have an impact to your life or the lives of other people. So for the lives of other people, I could give you another example of a project that I made. It was basically a plugin where students could upload their computer science assignments to an automatic grader. And that was used in my university because we used a specific software called WebCat, which would automatically grade our assignments, and I'd created a plugin to submit stuff to that. But yeah, that's just a bit about doing impactful things. I think that is something that you should do before, like during your time at college. Now, next thing is creating a strong resume. Um, I'm not plugging this because I work at Amazon, but Amazon Star Method is often seen as a pretty good template for writing about your experiences. So, is anyone willing to speak up and tell me what the Star Method is, if anyone knows?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like the situation, task, action, result.
It's pretty much that, right? Situation, task, action, result. Like if you go more in depth into it, what was the situation at hand that you had to deal with? Like what was the situation, what was the task at hand that you had to deal with, what kind of actions did you take to deal with that task, and what was the result, right? So if you go through those steps while creating a bullet point for a resume, it kind of is pretty impactful because it gives the whole picture to a recruiter's kind of reviewing your resume. A big gap that personally I've seen in a lot of resumes is that a lot of people add more programming languages and talk less about impact. So, okay, cool. Like, let me give you an example, right? So, let's say I see a bullet point saying, I use Java, I use Python, I used all these programming languages to create this specific application, right? And it could be a very good application. But what a recruiter is personally interested to see is what kind of impact is that application having. Like a lot of, like, once I saw a person whose app actually had a lot of downloads, right, on the App Store. But the main thing they focused on was how, like, what kind of programming languages they used to develop that app, and what kind of tech stack they used to develop that app. And I feel like that is kind of the wrong way to go about things. I think you should focus more on, okay, what impact did that application have on whoever, right? So you could say maybe, hey, it helped me, like for my Zoom application, it helped me like even get attendance done even though I was sleeping. Or if I would go to get food, I would just not have to deal with logging into the meeting late. So those kind of things, describing those kind of things for your applications and for your projects would be a lot better than describing programming languages. And that doesn't mean don't include programming languages. Of course, you need to include that, but focus more on impact, and programming languages should kind of be a secondary thing to impact. And second, like the last point is make sure that your resume can be parsed by ATS, because a lot of people go for fancy looking resumes, but to be honest, a black and white resume has worked really well in ATS systems, and then obviously the rest is upon the recruiter. But just make sure that it goes through the initial phase of getting parsed by ATS, because if you create a fancy resume with like even really good bullet points, but it never gets past ATS, you're kind of damaging yourself in that process. So, I mean, obviously, if you were applying to, let's say, Spotify, that's an example I've seen. Spotify, someone I think created a resume that was specifically tailored to Spotify. Like it had like Spotify Wrapped, it had like that whole template, and that looked really cool, right? But the thing is, if you're doing that, make sure you're sending your resume directly to recruiters and getting responses from them instead of going through the normal application process, because in the normal application process, it will probably be shut down by ATS, that kind of resume. So, yeah, that's a little bit more about creating a strong resume. Then make connections in the industry. So reach out to university, high school, work alumni, whoever, right? Who you see is in the tech industry, and just start talking to them, right? Talk to them about how stuff's going for you. Just build connections with them. So you're connected to people who are already working in the industry or are looking to work in the industry. And the reason I suggest high school, work, university alumni is because the best way to get to know someone is having something with them in common. Like if one of you messaged me that, oh, you're also a Barcelona fan, I would be more likely to respond to you than if you were like, okay, hey, I just want to get to know you better. Like, I mean, I would probably would respond to both, but I would be more inclined to respond to the person with something with me in common. So that's just a specific tip. And try your best to get referrals before applying to positions. So as you all know, like you've probably seen this, right? 3,000 applications within the first 2 hours for a random job position, right? That's crazy. Like get like there those are too many resumes for a recruiter to look at them manually. I think there was also a scandal where they kind of said that they don't look at all of the resumes, and some of them just get automatically discarded out, which is true, but no one in the tech industry will openly admit that from the recruiter standpoint. So they're probably not going to go through all of the resumes. Obviously, like ATS is also a barrier for that. But the best way to kind of make sure that your resume is reviewed and you are given, priority in the application process is getting a referral. So don't look to, my advice would be not to look to, apply within the first 2 hours or be one of the first applicants, but it would be to, look out for a referral and then apply to a specific position, because referrals are really impactful at smaller companies. Because if you're working at, if you're applying to, let's say, a 20-person company, right? But you have one person out of those 20 people that's willing to vouch for you, that would be really impactful. Like they would, like, from what I know, like from what I've known and what I've seen, they usually do give interviews if someone is referring you in a smaller company. Like they'll give you at least an online assessment. If you obviously bomb the online assessment, that's a different story, but they most likely will give you a chance to prove yourself before rejecting you. So that's definitely a plus point, and it will obviously prevent you from just getting rejected at the resume screen. And don't make the relation transactional. It's pretty obvious. So if like a lot of people do contact me for referrals at Amazon or AWS, and the thing is, I can tell, if it's transactional relationship or not. Like if someone's connecting with me, I kind like you can kind of figure out, okay, cool, is this person just talking to me just to get some benefit out of me, or are they actually talking because they're interested to get to know who I am, or how I am where I am, or whatever that case may be, right? You kind of realize if it is a transactional relationship or the person's actually curious and interested. So just make sure that you don't make the relationship seem transactional, and on a more broader perspective, don't make the relationships transactional. Only contact people you're actually interested to know, and that would be good for you going forward in the tech industry, because it would help you, get referrals at other places, or even once you get a full-time job, right? It's possible you might not like the company you're at and you're looking to transition, and knowing people in the industry could definitely help you transition a lot faster. So yeah, that's a little bit about making connections, and then preparing for the interview. Internships, uh, internship interviews usually rely on DSA knowledge. However, DSA is not always equal to lead code. I know lead code does a really good job at kind of getting the internship interview questions down, and most big tech companies do have a lead code questions that they ask in the interviews. Like I've been asked lead code questions multiple times. Like I couldn't even tell you how many. It's too much. But sometimes you get asked a DSA question. So my recommendation would kind of be yes, do lead code, and lead code is a pretty major solution to the tech interviews. But just remember that you should also focus on DSA, like just knowing all of the data structures and algorithms like more efficiently. And it is possible that you get a like problem that is not solvable through lead codes methods. Then second thing would be to make sure to prepare for the behavioral part of the interview too, because a lot of the times people do prepare for the tech interview a lot, like you see 800, 700 questions solved on lead code. But if you're sounding robotic during the behavioral part of the interview and you're not kind of answering the question well, that can be grounds to reject someone, because it's not always like, you have not done enough in your college life, or you haven't done what's supposed to do. But the thing, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But the main problem is a lot of the times people are not able to explain what they've done during their college life, which is again a big problem, right? Because if the interviewer does not know what you've exactly done, and you're not able to explain the impact of the things that you've done correctly, then that could definitely be grounds of an interviewer rejecting you, because they don't feel like you've done enough. So yeah, just don't sound robotic, and be ready to kind of be more personable, and also explain what you've done in a concise and fun manner. So yeah, the STAR method is also recommended for stories and behavioral interviews as well, but do it subtly, because one problem that I've seen a lot of people do is, kind of say it out loud. The situation was this, the task was this, the action was this, and the result was this. Yes, you are doing the STAR method in that case, but obviously it just sounds like you've prepared for it beforehand. And preparing for it beforehand is not the problem, but if it kind of sounds like you're reading off a script, which gets kind of boring and makes the interviewer lose kind of focus on you, and makes them kind of think about other things. So what you want to make sure is the interviewer is kind of hooked into your story, and he's actively listening to you rather than his attention being everywhere else. So that would be my advice for preparing for the interview. So yeah, hopefully the last step would be to celebrate the offer. But even if you get an offer, there are a few things that I'd like to tell you. One of them is comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare your timeline or position to others, because one thing I've seen a lot of people fall into is like, oh, I got into this company, but this guy got into, let's say company Y, which is a lot better, but I'm in company X. And doing that once you've got an offer is not going to help you, right? Because you're going to join that company regardless. And looking at other people and saying, oh, this guy's doing an internship at a better company than me, is not exactly the best determinant. What the main focus should be, rather than doing all of these things, is to want like think about how you would succeed in that new internship role, and how you get a return offer. And yeah, don't compare yourself to others, because that is very, like, I've fallen into that trap as well. And it does nothing for you but kind of demoralize you, and just make you think more about things than you should be. And I know this process is harder than ever right now, but keep being persistent, because I know how bad the tech industry is. I graduated in 2023 which was right before the layoffs. And I did have a lot of like my Amazon offer was also delayed by 6 months. So I also did get a bit of the blunt force of the layoffs. And I think my Meta return offer was also rescinded. So those times were kind of hard for everyone. And I think it's becoming harder. Like it's not becoming harder, but I definitely feel like, the process is harder than it was, let's say, 4 years ago. And I am aware that, a lot of people have been applying to hundreds or if not thousands of applications and not been hearing back. But the key thing is, don't be discouraged, right? Maybe, who knows, the 1,001st application can be the one that is willing to give you a chance. So the main takeaway from that is just keep on trying, keep on trying. And I believe that if a person just keeps on trying, it always works out for them. So yeah, after going through such a hard process, also do take some time to enjoy it, right? Go out, enjoy with your friends, treat yourself, do whatever, right? But make sure to not completely slow down, because that is a mistake that I made. After an internship, I kind of slowed down and I kind of started taking things easily, which affected my academic career a little bit and also affected how I performed in an internship maybe 2, 3 months down the line. So, one thing I'd recommend is enjoy yourself. Obviously, you've done a lot, you've done well, you should enjoy yourself, but just make sure not to completely slow down and ruin everything after you've done all of the hard work. So, yeah, that's a little bit about the timeline or the process that I kind of wanted to explain and the general tips that I had. But yeah, pretty much enough of me talking. I've been talking for a while. Now I want to hear from you guys, right? What are you guys thinking about the current market? What are your questions? Whatever, right? I just want to be there so I can kind of answer all of your questions. Wait, sorry, I'll just stop sharing and I'll get back to the Leland screen so I could see any hands raised. Um, so yeah, I see a question. A counselor mentioned me to put an executive summary on my resume. Would you recommend it? I would not recommend an executive summary for the sole reason that it is, I don't think people have enough experience in the industry right now to kind of be writing executive summaries. Executive summaries are kind of seen as a thing that people with 10 to 15 years of experience, right? And for an internship, I don't think that would be required. So, will we have access to a recording of the meetings or the slides? I could provide anyone with the slides. Just message me on Leland, and I can provide you with a copy of the slides. I don't think this meeting's being recorded. So yeah, I don't think you will have access to a recording as such. But or is it being recorded? I think it is. So yeah, actually the meeting might be recorded. So I'll just have to make sure that I did the right thing or not. And if not, yeah, I think I'll make the slides available though. So which Rakir asked, are soft skills important for internships? Yes, I believe soft skills are important for internships because again, that's what the behavioral part of the interview is for, right? That to kind of judge your soft skills. And I believe soft skills are going to be important because those determine if you're going to be successful in the software engineering role or not. And that is one thing that companies look at before hiring you, right? How good of a new grad software engineer would you be? And I think soft skills play a role in that. So, short answer, yes. So I think who's bump for Rish's question. Okay, I'm just gonna look at Rishab's question. I think I skipped. Um, Hello, I'm Rishabh, a freshman at UC Berkeley. I was wondering if you have any experience with the IBM intern process. I got a referral and I got a perfect score on the way, but I haven't heard back for an interview. I know this is a very specific question, but I was wondering if you had a similar experience either at IBM or elsewhere. Would you suggest reaching out to someone after a while? If so, who? I've had experiences like that. So I have had experiences where I have got a referral and I have done really well on the online assessment just to get ghosted. I would recommend reaching out to a recruiter from IBM, or I'd recommend reaching out to someone who you know in IBM and seeing, wondering what the timeline that they have for reaching back out to applicants. So I think Mamadou has his hand raised. So yeah, I think let's let Mamadou go ahead with his question.
Yeah, I have a quick question regarding like degrees or not, because like you mentioned you went to the university and like you did come shy, but what about those who have like who didn't go through it but like have experience and did like some boot camps and just have an intense have had an intensive boot camp into like software engineering with
Hmm.
the most like the most popular tech stacks and the ones that are being used right now, like the most popular ones, and like have experience also with DSA and algorithms.
Hmm.
Is it like is this a good formula for them as well? Or
Yes. So I think what you're referring, I don't think so. The problem with people out of boot camps and stuff, like if you've completed a boot camp, is internships. This was more specifically for internships, right? Because it's like a lot of universities only take college students, but sorry, a lot of companies take only college students. But if you're looking for a new grad position, this is also a pretty good kind of like timeline. But the only thing that changes is, I believe, the interview process. Because this once you're interviewing for like new grad or level roles, you also kind of get into the realm of, okay, system design interviews, right? System design interviews become a part of things, and they start looking at different kinds of skills. So other than the interview process, I'd still say this timeline is, or this process is still pretty applicable to new grads. Does that answer your question?
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Let's go with two more chat questions, and then let's get to Mary, who's raised her hand. So, hi, I had a question. So, I recently heard that ATS rejects latex resumes right away. It seems that ATX is not equipped to understand latex well. How true is this? I think that's false, because I've seen a lot of people create latex resumes and they've get interviews. So I don't know the truth of that. But if there's any information that you have that kind of proves what I said to be false, I'd love to hear about that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then Mary asked, are they using AI to screen and reject candidates? That is becoming more and more of a possibility, because as you know, companies are having a push to kind of adopt AI. So one of the ways that kind of companies use AI could be in the to streamline the application process. So yeah, this is starting to become a possibility, but obviously it's hard to know how many companies are using it and how many are not. But I can tell you that there would definitely be some companies out there that are using this approach. Mary, was that the question you raised your hand for, or is it another question?
Thank you for answering my question. My question right now is about this technical interview. You were mentioning that we should not be just brute forcing leak code. So, what would you recommend that we do if we're not supposed to just be leak coding and learning?
Oh no, I'm saying. So I wasn't saying just brute for don't. So my point about don't just brute force lead code is do lead code. I'm not telling you not to do lead code, because I've done lead code myself, right? I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and just sit here and say no, don't do lead code. But my main point is, if you only know lead code and you don't like, if you don't focus on learning the exact nitty gritties of a DSA, and questions on those are asked, it can kind of obviously not go well. So, and there are a lot of times companies nowadays are kind of trying to ask the non-lead code questions, because they know that, okay, a lot of students just brute force all of the lead code questions that are already there. And when you ask them that, it seems like they already have an answer at the back of their hand, right? Like if you're answering a lead code hard problem without even thinking about it, it's pretty obvious that you have kind of memorized the solution, right? So yeah, the reason I recommend not only doing lead code is I recommend personally having a very good understanding of data structures and algorithms that are used in general programming languages as well. Sorry, general programming as well, right? Because that kind of helps you explain solutions better. Because lead code will teach you to get to the end solution a lot better. But what I want you to do is kind of have the whole process be very good, right? So you can kind of explain why you chose, let's say, maps over a list. That's a pretty obvious one, but like, you can explain trade-offs like that a lot better if you have a good understanding about DSA, and that could just be ways to impress your interviewer or make them show that, okay, cool, they know a good amount about DSA. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Um, so do you? Another question in chat is, do you have any suggestions for ATS score checker for resume? I tried some, but they give me highly varied answers. Mine is a template for more relief. Yeah, ATS score checkers, I don't think that I know of. There isn't exactly a specific, like, score checker that will give you the exact score. But yeah, the general guideline is kind of to create a resume that's easily, parsable. It's obviously ATS scores online. You'll get, maybe some you'll get a higher score, some you'll get a lower score. But the main takeaway from that is don't create like complex designs on your resume. I think a simple black and white resume should kind of be the best solution. But obviously, as I've said, if you're looking to kind of create a resume tailored for a company, just make sure that you're sending it to the recruiters directly rather than kind of submitting it through the ATS way. Question: do you need to do well in both technical and behavioral interviews? Can we do better on one and get through? You can do better on one and get through, but obviously it's like, both are weighed equally importantly. So it's like, if you don't do well on the behavioral, that can be grounds of rejection. If you don't do well on the technical, that can be grounds of rejection. But if you do really well on a technical, let's say, and you don't do as well on a behavioral, the interviewer could give you a pass through, right? But obviously, the general recommendation from me is, in this kind of market, just try to do well on both. But yeah, you could definitely get through with a weaker performance on either one. But yeah, so I think there are a lot more messages. So yeah, how is it? I have a question. So, what exactly are recruiters looking at the behavioral interview? Is there a right answer to this? No, there's no right answer to this, because behavioral questions are just looking at, okay, how are you as a person? Can you explain your impact? Can you, talk through things? They're just looking at those kind of small soft skills, right? As someone has mentioned before, and I've explained why soft skills are important to succeed in a software engineering role. And that's kind of what they're looking for, right? They're looking for how you are as a person. Would you be able to communicate well? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, software engineering is a team game. So the thing is, if you are having issues, let's say, communicating with people, or it's kind of obvious that you don't work well alongside people, that could be a major red flag. Because in the software industry, you have to kind of work alongside people. And if they see that, okay, this guy or this person is not able to deal with people well, that could kind of be a red flag for an interview, and could possibly be grounds for rejection. So yeah, will it be good to intern in your skill line? Like, if you study data analytics, do you need to intern in that line? My answer to that would be no. Obviously, it would be easier to get, let's say, if you study data analytics, it's easier to get a data analytics internship. But if you're interested in some other sort of internship, go for it, right? If you are able to show your interest in that specific domain correctly, and you're able to talk through why you want to do that internship. I've seen a lot of people, study different things like data science, data analytics, and do software engineering internships. Or let's say, people in other majors have been software engineer interns. So that wouldn't be a problem. But I think obviously it would be a lot harder than, you doing an internship in that specific line, because they would need an explanation. So hope that answers your question. Um, and the next question is, sorry, Vajira, I think you unmuted your mic. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
No worries. So I'm about done with my bachelor's and I've got two pathways to follow. I either go mastering my way into CP or development in Flutter. What do you suggest me to go with considering the market situation? I'm skilled in both but want to hang on to one path to go professional with. Ananya, could you elaborate more on that?
Okay, so basically one pathway is coding and I get into an ST or Flutter is a language to develop apps. So I'm just confused whether like should I go more detailed into coding and DSA to
Mhm.
um for further things or should I go mastering my way into Flutter?
Hmm. So you're almost done with your bachelor. So I think for again for new grads, as I said, I don't think mastery in a specific language is looked at because as a new grad software engineer, they kind of look into more like, okay, cool, can this person adapt to like is this person having a willingness to learn? If that is the case, then they don't mind what kind of programming language you use because if you're willing to learn, they believe that you can kind of adapt to any programming language that exists. So my main kind of advice to you in this situation would be like if you're going to work on projects in one of them, just find a project that you're interested in and then just determine, right, is this a project that fits more with CP or is it a project that fits more with Flutter? Whichever one it is, go for it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. um Abigail asked, how complex should personal projects be? They don't need to be complex. There isn't a metric that determines how complex your personal project is. It's more so like, what are you interested in, right? Okay, like the Zoom automatic login thing I created, it wasn't the most complex thing. Today with AI that could probably be created within a day. But I think the more interesting story was kind of why I created it and what kind of impact it had. So I think just do stuff you're interested in regardless of if it's complex or not. Like, and I think you should be good because the thing is they might just look at, okay, cool, was this an important thing or not? Like a lot of the a lot of the things in software engineering as well, in my kind of job, let me give you an example from my job, right? So a lot of the times, let 10 code change that is of 10 lines could potentially save you millions. So the complexity of the solution does not matter, but the fact that you save millions matters to Amazon or AWS, right? So the thing is, don't look into the complexity, but look at the problem that's being solved. Hopefully that answers your question. Rishabh asks, do you have any tips or tools for increasing the chance that a recruiter responds? I've tried standard methods like messaging on LinkedIn and emailing them with emails I found online. But out of 10 messages so far, only one has responded on LinkedIn. I was hoping that you had some effective ways to reach out to them. Also, do you have any guidance on that initial email should look like? Rishabh, are you comfortable with turning on your mic? I just wanted
Yeah,
to,
sure.
yeah. So, what is your goal of reaching out to recruiters?
Ultimately, my goal was usually the goal that I write about is one, learning about their experience at the company and learning whether that, culture and environment is something that I'd want to work in. And then two, of course, on the side, the goal is maybe by the end of the call to request whether they would be able to send a referral or not.
Yeah, fair. I think you're contacting the wrong audience
I see.
because if you want to learn about the experience of a person at, let's say, Google, I think the recruiter's experience would be a lot less applicable to you than it would be for a software engineer, right?
Sorry, I should probably clarify there. I reached out to both recruiters and existing employees to see
Mhm.
if both would be able to send a referral.
Yeah. So even between existing employees, that has had a success rate of 10%.
Hmm.
Okay. So who have you reached out to? Is it just like software engineers at Google, or have you looked at, okay, you mentioned you were a freshman at Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah. So have you reached out to Berkeley alumni, or someone who is at a club that who was at a club that you are currently in at Berkeley, or kind of how did you go about it, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I specifically targeted Berkeley alumni
Hmm.
for some of the companies, for example, Five Rings. I looked at some Berkeley alumni. Same thing with some of the other companies. Um, right now, I'm working mostly in a research group.
Hmm.
This coming semester, going more down the club line, so I think
Hmm.
I'll gain more connections there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now, I've mostly been looking at alumni and people who've gone to Berkeley before,
Hmm. Okay.
as
And
well as some of my sister's friends who work in corporate space.
yeah. So one thing I'd recommend is try reaching out to more people. I know that
Okay,
sounds like
sounds
a
good.
bad answer, but 10 people, I don't think is that much. You could definitely, like, okay, even if 10% are responding, I think if you message more people, that 10% becomes a larger number, right? If you message 100
Yeah,
people,
yeah. I just wasn't sure if that percentage will actually, will actually carry forward, or if maybe that
I
was
think,
just
I
one
think
exception that happened to fall.
honestly, I think 10 to 30% is usually the range that I'd expect for cold emailing, cold messaging. That's a good response rate because, yeah, like a lot of people don't feel like answering. Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, I think 10-30% is definitely, a good range, a good ballpark to aim for. So I
Okay,
think
yeah. I just
that,
wanted to gain some clarity on what that expected outcome should be for
yeah,
response
no,
rate.
I think the more like you have in common with someone, the higher the response rate will be, right? So I think it's not exactly as matter of, oh, this 10% is going to exist. It's like, okay, cool, it depends on how much you have in common with that person, right? Like if you
Yep.
message me, let's say 6 months later, saying, oh, remember me, I was at your meeting talking about this thing, right? I'm going to remember you. Hopefully,
Right.
I hope my memory is not that bad, but I think I'm going to remember you. So then that would kind of be like, oh, okay, cool, hi Rishabh, I remember you. So that kind of way, I'm more likely to respond to you than if I randomly get a message saying, hey, what's up. I'm just going to be like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
yeah. So the response rate will kind of depend on that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The next question is from David. How common are OO design questions for internship roles? Honestly, I've never experienced like system design interview questions for an internship role. I think they're kind of 50-50 for new grad as well. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen people ask system design questions for internship roles, because the thing is, internship, they kind of give you a predefined project and your work is just to implement that project within the 12 weeks or how many ever weeks that an internship's for, right? So I don't think system design questions are applicable, because in 12 weeks, if they expect you to design a system, I think they're being unrealistic. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I'm thoroughly enjoying this event. Listening to your thoughts is helping gain clarity. Thank you. And even if you hate this event, please let me know. So hopefully I can improve for the next time. So yeah, maybe contact the SWEs on the teams you're interested in. Yes, that is a really good suggestion by Mary, because if you are interested in a specific team, like I used, let's say I'm just addicted to Audible and I've been using Audible for 18 years of my life, and I contact a person on the Audible team saying, "Hey, this is what I like about the app. This is what I don't like about the app. How is stuff? What is stuff that you're working on? Oh, I've used the feature that you're working on." If someone tells you that they've used the feature you're working on, you'll kind of be like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool," and that you'd kind of respond to them. So, yeah, that is definitely a good suggestion. Thank you, Mary. um Go to the career fairs too, meet them in person, go to the club meetups in person. Yes, Mary knows how to connect with people, seemingly. So yeah, that's whatever Mary is saying so far. I don't know after 347 what she said, but up until 347 her advice is pretty good. So yeah, next question from Talents. I'm at Columbia, worked as a RA at MIT. Any tips for quant stress trading firms? My tips for quants slash trading firms are best of luck. I mean, yeah, okay, that doesn't help, but yeah, quant and trading firms, as you know, are always going to be competitive, and a lot of the times getting rejected is not a reflection of you, because quant and trading firms can just be so selective. And so, Talents, I would ask you to unmute your mic to see if you had any specific tips that you're looking for, because I think any tips for quant slash trading firms is kind of more generic. So I'd be looking into kind of what are the questions that you have, and we could go from there.
I mean, honestly, I don't necessarily have any questions to do the problems because I'm pretty good at the probability problems, but like I was asking for like more so based on like connections, like recruiters, contacting the recruiters on LinkedIn.
Um, yeah, I don't think I think knowing people in let's say quant trading firms would be your best bet. Like software engineers or people who've done stuff in that specific domain would be your best bet.
Yeah, they got those working at quant firms too.
Yeah, so I think connecting with them and obviously applying with a referral would be the best thing, because a lot of these quant firms are very small. So referrals go a long way, as I said in the PowerPoint, right? Like referrals go a long way. The smaller the company is, like Amazon, right? It's pretty good, but if there are 100,000 employees, the referral of one employee does not have as much of an impact, right? As much as, let's say, okay, cool. If there's a quant firm that has like 500 people, you like the referral of one person matters a lot more. Like I also interviewed at a quant firm and I knew a person who was working in there. So the referral, I believe, helped me a lot to get that interview, because a lot of people got rejected from there. But yeah, I got the interview through that connection. So yeah, that is definitely a thing that I'd recommend, referrals.
Thank you.
So yeah, look into mentorships companies have for new grads. Good advice again by Mary. Was this meeting recorded? I joined late. I don't know, so I will let you know. And yeah, I will see if the meeting is recorded, and I think I have an option to email our attendees. So if it was recorded, I will send you an email with the recording. But I think it's being recorded from what I can see on my screen. I've only seen select companies use over design questions like ramp. It has been very common. It hasn't been common in my very like limited experience. Yep, that's right. I don't see it that often for internships. What should one do after a career fair? One would meet so many recruiters, and from recruiters' perspective, there would be plenty of students who would have come and tried their best. How to stand out? I personally had spiked some amazing conversations during career fair, but at the end of the day, I was exhausted. But seems like nothing really worked. Any tips or thoughts? So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like making friendships in a way. Like why would someone remember you? It's like, okay, cool. The reason I remember someone is they're people at the end of the day, right? So if you're talking to them, obviously they have your resume at hand, they know what you've done, but kind of talking to them about, more personable things, like I don't know. This is kind of a tough question because it depends on the recruiter. That would be my answer. Like, this is a very tough question because it depends on the recruiter. Like, you should kind of know how a person is and what to talk to about to a person. I don't know if that answers your question. But yeah, this thing is very variable. I don't think there's one right answer to it. So it's kind of more like some recruiters will definitely not care because they're just tired. They've been meeting thousands of applicants. So regardless of what you do, they're not going to care, right? So yeah, the best thing is just to kind of spark a personal connection with them, and then they obviously have your resume, and then they can kind of vouch for you more. Yeah, Jan, you can talk. Um, Jan, is your mic working or? Hello. Okay, cool. Ayan, you can if your mic is not working, you can. Okay, I think he left, so I think he might be having some problems with his mic. But yeah, Mary's.
Ian is back now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Ayan, can you hear? Can you are you able to speak? If not, I think you could just type in your question.
Oh, yeah, no, no. I was actually, I don't know why my mic wasn't working, so I reloaded. But
Yeah.
thank you. So actually, it was my question, like speaking regarding the recruiters and stuff. So should it be like I should after the once the event is done, what should be like a follow up to them, like in that perspective? I wanted to know your thoughts.
Oh yeah. So what you okay? A follow up. That's a question that I think I'd be more like able to answer appropriately. Like you take some form of contact, like the email, or yeah, some form of contact, right? Like the email, and just drop them a thank you note. Just saying thank you for your time. It was good talking about this experience, and just drop any questions you have, right? Don't I mean, yeah, just thank them and just be like, okay, I really enjoyed talking about this specific thing, but I have a question after what you said. So like kind of show them that you remember the conversation and then ask the question. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries, because I think that will kind of help a recruiter remember you. Because if
Mhm.
someone like if now you email me saying, "Oh, remember how you told me about recruiters, how to contact recruiters? You said this thing, but you weren't very clear," which I agree with. And then you'd be like, "Okay, cool, but what are you? I have another question based on what you said," and then I'd be like, "Okay, cool. This is Ian messaging me who already emailed me, or
Awesome.
sorry, who already spoke to me at the event." So
Okay.
yeah,
That
can
really
you talk
helps.
about, sorry, yeah,
That really helps. Thank you.
no worries. So can you talk about your coaching for those of us that are not passing the in-person portion of interviews? So yeah, I think for people who are not passing the in-person portion of the interviews, I do mock interviews through my coaching platform. So I will share the QR code of that in just a minute. And yeah, so also, can you talk about how you got through to your internship at Amazon/AWS? Mary, can you be more specific about like what
Oh,
your
sorry. Did you have a referral? Like, did you have a referral all along the way, or?
no, and that was a mistake that I made, but I got lucky because
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
at that time that was I think 2021. And yeah, I think I luckily got away with not getting a referral at Amazon, but don't try what I did.
Okay, so do not do what you did. Okay, got
Don't do
you.
what I did. That
Okay.
is that is the best advice I'd give you is don't do what I did. I got lucky, I survived, but not recommended. So yeah, last question, then I'll just share the final slide, which should be the end of this event. But I'm a first year student at an American uni at Germany, and as a Moroccan person, didn't have any experience with applying to internships or whatever thing like that before. We didn't have much of that culture there. Neither did I. I didn't apply to internships before college as well. So that makes the two of us. And thus I have no idea for what really to do to get an internship, or what does recruiters expect me or want me to have, or what matters to them. I tried doing this winter break to develop as much skills as I can and really dedicated in it to develop my skills. But for example, let's say I was thinking about adding a minor in mathematics because I have a strong background with it. But will this matter for them? Like for example, in your opinion, would they prefer someone who had some projects and a math minor, or no math minor and more projects? My answer to this would be, what do you think would matter to you? Uh, that would be my question. If it matters to you to have a math minor and some projects, if you are more interested in the math minor, go for the math minor. Don't I don't I think in this case, don't care about what the recruiter thinks, but care about what you think. Because if you're unhappy with what you're doing at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to do it well. So do what makes you happy in this scenario. If you believe that taking a math minor and learning more about math is going to make you happy, I think that will be the best way to kind of display your skills. But if you don't want a math minor and you're just taking it to impress recruiters, don't go for it and enjoy doing more projects in CS. Hopefully that answers your question. So yeah, that's it for the Q&A session. If you have any questions, I'll just show you how to contact me. So just give me 1 second. Yeah, so thank you all for attending. I would appreciate all feedback. As I said before, even if you hated this event, please let me know so I can improve, because my goal is to help as many people get an internship as possible. So if I've done something bad, I would prefer that you tell me rather than not. So yeah, and please let me know if this event helped you get an offer. That would be the best thing for me to know, is that someone got an offer and I was able to help them through that process. So yeah, and the QR code here I think is to my Leland profile. So I think you can set up a free call with me in case you want to talk about any specific things. And yeah, you can message me on that platform. So you can message me on Leland. So if you guys have any questions or anything of those sorts, just message me on Leland and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. So yeah, that I think concludes the end of this event. Hope sorry, I